Good morning. My name is Tracy Trypuc, and welcome to Your Health Matters. As we approach the holidays, mental health experts have joined together in an important discussion about holiday stress, unrealized expectations, holiday depression, and coping skills. Today, we would like to continue this conversation here. We will be discussing holiday stress, unrealized expectations, holiday depression, and coping skills. I would like to now introduce my guest. I have with me in the studio Michael Stoltz. He is a licensed clinical social worker and the CEO of the Association for Mental Health and Wellness. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Tracy.
Thank you for joining us. So, Mike, it is important to distinguish between holiday blues, which often subsides after the holidays, and clinical depression, which often requires professional help. Can you please address this for our viewers?
Sure. In the clinical world, people will distinguish between an adjustment reaction and a major depression. And you're not really going to get to a place of really diagnosing a major depression until really at a minimum 3 weeks, generally 3 months. Mm-hmm. So everything else is an adjustment. You have a very clear stressor or a series of stressors. And that's generally what we associate with around holiday distress.
Mm-hmm. For some of our viewers, this may be the first holiday season without a spouse or a loved one. Whether it's the first or the 10th or the 15th season without their loved one, the season can cause great feelings of loneliness and sadness. Could you please address this with our viewers?
Sure. Underneath most depressions are usually some theme of loss, some real loss in the case of a loved one who has passed, or losses with respect to jobs or job status, or having to move, loss of friends, and, and other kinds of transitions and such. So for the holiday season, a time where a family would gather, be looking for a particular place in the table or a stocking on the fireplace or things like that, that's constant reminders of those losses and absences, which really it adds to the stress.
Actually, I'm going to ask you this. This was something I was going to ask later, but with regard to this, do you recommend for people who have lost a loved one, is it, I mean, maybe there really is no exact answer for any one situation, but is it better to continue to put a stocking on the fireplace, a year after year, or is it better to try to work towards not doing that? I mean, I know this is a difficult question, and I guess I'll preface this just by saying that I lost a child at a very, very young age, and I had to go through the whole grieving process and wanting to put a stocking on the tree and on the fireplace, and I no longer do that because it was a very long time ago, but I still think about him. He's always in my heart, and so I just am curious about that. It's just
Sure.
different for every person?
Absolutely. And first of all, I'm sorry for your loss. There is a different process for everybody. And theorists and practitioners who work in the field of bereavement can tell you that there are very few real rules that guide what has to happen, what you should do, and what you shouldn't do. But as you articulated, there's a process to recovering from a loss. And that all moves toward a place where the final kind of phase of resolving a loss is about finding hope. Hope that the person who you've lost is in a place, within your heart and within your consciousness that, you can come to peace with, and that you can move on kind of without the person's physical presence. But there's no rules about how long that should take.
Right.
The things you should and shouldn't do along the way, despite the well-meaning efforts of people around us who constantly want to tell us what we should and shouldn't do to be able to deal with a loss. There's no clear rules.
No, and there shouldn't be any, judgment about, it's not a competition. It's not a competition about, grief is personal.
Right. Well, what happens is though people around you, when you've lost someone, also are going through their own grief
Mm-hmm.
and their own struggles because they want to be able to console you and help you to,
Mm-hmm.
get past the pain. But, again,
Right.
there's no rules.
Mm-hmm. So, holiday stress has an impact on lower middle income families. This group feels the weight of stress from work plus the seasonal rush to find time to get everything done. In addition, their worries about money are heightened by the commercialism of the season and the pressure to spend a lot of money. Would you like to address that?
Well, in studies about stress, for people over the age of 50, money is the number one stressor throughout life and throughout the calendar year. But it just so happens that Thanksgiving and Christmas tend to align, and Hanukkah tend to align right at a time of year that in business cycles also raises tremendous stress. It's a time where if you're in the sales business, you're trying to wrap up things to be able to hit certain sales targets by the end of the year. If you're in if you're in business and you're bidding things out, you're trying to close certain business. You're going to close projects. In government, there's a time frame to try to, bring things to closure also by the end of the year. So there's a great amount of stress, business-wise, to bring closure to projects. But it's also for people who are in businesses that are based on commissions and targets and closing contracts and winning bids. That time of year, at the end of the year, things in the stock market
Right.
and things like that to be able to realize earnings. So there's a great, connection between the processes of what happened in business at the end of the year, psychologically, to how people experience the holidays.
Mm-hmm. Right, and so then that segues nicely into the next question that I have, which is one of the other major contributing factors for holiday depression is that the noted people's expectations, which fall short of what they expect the season should bring. So, in other words, when I'm watching TV and I see all these commercials about, this beautiful jewelry with the diamonds in it, or this person's getting a new car. All these fictitious people in the commercials are getting new cars and this and
Wrapped
that.
with a big red bow on the top, right?
Exactly. But then, when you look at your own life, you have expectations in your own life that maybe aren't being met. And so it's all magnified. So do you want to talk about that?
Sure. So social media, like we're on today, and Facebook and all the other kinds of Instagram, such, do put out this image that goes to our perfectionism, our sense of, boy, this is the idyllic life that we should be leading and I should be having. And anything short of that is a disappointment. Now, of course, that sense of disappointment that we might feel also comes from other places, our childhood, messages that come around us. Here's what you should have done. Here's the road you should have taken. If you had gone this way, your life would have been different. You'd have made more money. You'd have been more successful. You'd have had a happier marriage. You'd have had incredibly successful kids, and all those kinds of shoulda, woulda, couldas. And unfortunately, these also tend to align and come up at this time of year, the regrets, the processes of taking inventory, where we look at those kinds of things. So, but you're absolutely right. Unfortunately, with this time of year, that's the strategies, for sales is go out there, spend, make your life, the quality of your life, look more wonderful by buying this widget or that gadget or that, that piece of clothing or whatever.
And also to trying to create that picture perfect Norman Rockwell.
That's right. That's right.
Family. Okay, so now I'd like to talk about social isolation. For people who are lonely or feel disconnected, if a person is already feeling depressed, seeing others having a good time often makes the situation worse. Family dynamics can create conflicts during the holidays. What's your advice, or just what would you like to say about that?
don't look to undo the damage and pain that you've felt from disappointments in your relationships in one full swoop through the holidays. Realize that repairing relationships, taking inventory on relationships, looking to repair them, to have major and significant reconstructive conversations are not going to happen during this time of year with great success when there's great distress, pressure around for people. Mm-hmm. So the magic, the magic bullet, so to speak, probably not going to exist so easily. The contrary to that is, look, yes, people do feel losses more painfully during the holiday season, and that a natural reaction could be, I'm going to pull away and I'm going to spend time by myself. And maybe that's the time we also have to be thinking about some things we could do around self-healing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We have to wrap up, but can you give me just one quick self-healing? I think we're gonna get cut off here. We'll have to have you come back for more of that. Let me just wrap up then here. Thank you, Mike Stoltz, for speaking with us today about this very important topic. Please tune in after the holidays for another Your Health Matters with Tracy Trypuc. Thank you, and I wish you a happy holiday season, a happy, healthy new year, and peace.